Hi guys, my name is Himanshu and today we will be discussing about availability set and load balancer in Azure. So to start with, let me share one of my presentation with you. What is availability set and why we need it? Let's assume I have one web server in which I have one web application running on it. So when I will create a web server with premium SSD hard disk drive, Microsoft ensures to give me SLA of 99.9%, which means in a year, if I have a SLA of 99.9%, I may have a downtime of 8 hours and 7 minutes. Now to reduce this downtime, Microsoft has introduced availability set in which I will be hosting my web application in two different web servers, and I will keep those web servers in different fault domain and update domain. So in availability sets, we have fault domain and update domains. When we create an availability set, by default we get 2 fault domain and 5 update domain. We can have up to 3 fault domains and we can have up to 20 update domains. Now what are fault domains and what are update domains? We will discuss it. But when we talk about availability set, Microsoft provides us a SLA of 99.95%, which means in a year I may get a downtime of 4 hours and 3 minutes, and the downtime could be from the various reasons like unplanned hardware maintenance. In case of hardware failure, I can have a downtime due to planned maintenance. We know that Microsoft does the patching of the servers, and Microsoft informs us 3 weeks before in case of planned maintenance, and for planned hardware maintenance as well we can have a downtime. And then third reason could be we can have an unexpected downtime in which all of a sudden VM fails unexpectedly. So these are the reasons we get the downtime, but Microsoft ensures us that our SLA 99.95% should be met, which means I cannot have a downtime for more than 4 hours and 3 minutes. So if I will have to achieve this SLA, what I will do, I will create 2 web servers. I will put it in a different fault domain and update domains in availability set. So what is a fault domain? Fault domain we can understand as in a data center we can have racks. So fault domains are racks. And what are update domains? Update domains are served in a same rack, but they are never rebooted at the same time. For example, in case of patching, server will never reboot simultaneously. Let's see it through an example. Here, this is my data center and these are my racks. Rack 1, rack 2. So we call racks as fault domain, and the servers here, this horizontal line where I have mentioned as server 1, these we call as update domain. So in an update domain, we can have multiple VMs, VM1, VM2, then this second horizontal line we can assume as a update domain 2, in which we can have a VM3 and VM4. Let me show one presentation with you. Just for your knowledge sake, I have created an availability set with 2 fault domains and 5 update domains. So the way virtual machine will be placed in the fault domain and update domain, it would be like this. If I have 2 fault domains, we can have fault domain 0. We will assume the first fault domain as fault domain 0 and then fault domain 1. So we can write it sequentially like 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1, and we can have update domain like 0 1 2 3 4. This is a count of 5, then again 0 1 2 3 4. So what Microsoft will do, when we will create availability set and when we will put virtual machines in the availability set, Microsoft will put it in the sequence like this. We need to remember one thing. In a subscription, we can have availability set up to 2500 per region, and we can have virtual machines in per availability set up to 200. So let's say if I have created one availability set with 2 fault domain and 2 update domain, you can see here we have 2 fault domains and 2 update domains, and I have created 10 virtual machines. So this is the way, let me maximize it. This is the way Microsoft availability set has put the virtual machines in this, like first virtual machine has been put in fault domain 0, update domain 0. Then second virtual machine Solo 3072 has been put by availability set by Microsoft in a way that it is at the position of fault domain 1 and update domain 1. So like 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 in this sequential manner, and update domain also in a sequential manner, and virtual machines will be placed in a sequential manner only. Like this, 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. But when we actually created the virtual machines, I found this result, that my first virtual machine was placed in fault domain 0, update domain 0. Then my second virtual machine was placed in fault domain 1, which is rack 1, and update domain 1. Third one in 0, ideally it should be in 0 update domain, but Microsoft has put it in the update domain 1. So this is the way my virtual machines were placed when we created the availability set with 2 fault domain and 2 update domains. And here we can see in a rack diagram, the virtual machines will be placed in this manner. 3 virtual machines in one update domain and 3 virtual machines in another update domain in different rack. So what will happen, like Microsoft plans some downtime. Now this is my rack. If Microsoft is performing some maintenance work in this rack 0, which is fault domain 0, so what will happen, all the update domains will not go down simultaneously. Microsoft will first down update domain 0, and then it will, once this update domain 0 will be up, then only Microsoft will execute its planned maintenance window for the update domain 1. It will never power off or execute the activities simultaneously on both the domains. I mean, in a sense, both the update domain cannot be down at the same time. So in today's video, what we are going to do today, I will be creating 2 web servers and I will host 2 web pages on those web servers. I will be creating my first VM with the web server 1 with the name web server 1, and I will be creating my another VM with the name web server 2. Both will be a part of the availability set. I will create one availability set as well, and then I will communicate with these web servers with their public IP addresses, and then I will configure the web pages then I will install IIS, and then I will configure my web pages in both the web servers. Then what I am going to do is I will disable their public addresses and I will configure the backend of this load balancer. I will be creating a public load balancer, and then I will associate these both of these web servers with the backend pool of this load balancer. So what will happen, once the user VM one if the user will try to access the web page, the load balancer will forward the request to web server 1. Then if the user accesses the same web page, the web application from the VM 2, the load balancer will automatically forward this request to web page 2. So this scenario is very much similar with the load balancer, with the network load balancing in Microsoft. In Microsoft, what happens, whenever lot of users try to access the web servers, so the round robin scheduling works behind the scenes, and it forwards the traffic in a round robin manner. The first request will go to web server 1, the second request will go to web server 2, the third request will go to web server 3. So in Azure, we will perform the same thing. So to start with, let me log in into my Azure portal. To log in into the Azure portal, we need to write it portal.azure.com, hit enter. This is my ID, I will click on it. Now I will enter my password. Click on yes. So this is my Azure page. So to create a resource group, I will create the resource group with the name TC_East_USA. I will click here. Now click on create. I will choose the subscription as pay as you go. Now this is my resource group name and I want to create it in the region East US, and the region by default is selected and it is correct. Now I will click on review plus create. Validation is passed. I will click on create. Alright, my resource group is complete. Now what I will do, let me quickly create one availability set. So to create an availability set, I will click here. And now I will click on create. Now I will create the availability set with the name TC_East_USA_availability_set. Subscription I will use pay as you go. Resource group is TC_East_USA. The name will be this one. And see, by default for domains I have 2 and the update domains I have 5. Now I can have up to 3 fault domains and I can have up to maximum 20 update domains. Now click on next, advanced option, click on next. Now review plus create. Now the validation is running. Validation is passed and I will click on create. So the deployment is in progress. Alright, deployment is complete. Let me go to home. Now, as per my presentation, I will be first creating one web server with the name web server 1. Let's create it and we will put it in a availability set. Click on virtual machines. Click on create, then select virtual machine. Subscription pay as you go. Resource group I will use TC_East_USA. Name of the virtual machine will be web server 1. Region is correct. Now availability zone we will select, and I will select the recently created availability set with the name TC_East_USA_availability_set. My image is correct and the size is also the minimum size 1 vCPU, 1 GB of RAM. And then let me create the user ID. I will be creating the user ID with the name TC_admin, and I will give it a password @123p capital. Now I want to make it a web server, so I will not only choose RDP with the port 3389, rather I will be selecting the port number 80 for HTTP traffic. Now click on next. Guys, here I want to show you one thing. I will be selecting standard hard disk drive, and see, when I selected hard disk drive, see, I get one message: choose premium SSD disk for lower latency, and with premium SSD disk qualify for the 99.9% connectivity SLA. So I was talking about this thing in my presentation. When we create a single VM instance with premium SSD hard disk drive, we get a SLA of 99.9%. But this virtual machine will be part of the availability set. And one more thing to remember, we can place one virtual machine in availability set at the time of its creation only. It is not like that if we have created a virtual machine and then later on we can put it into the availability set. No, we can only put the virtual machine in the availability set at the time of creation only. So going to the next, to the disk, I have selected standard hard disk drive because it has a low cost, and I am doing this for the testing purpose only. Now I will go to networking part of this VM. In the networking part, let me create one virtual network. Okay, I will give the name of this virtual network as TC_East_USA_network. Now the IP series is fine. I would like to go with the IP series of 10, and here in the subnet mask I do not want it with the name of default, rather I will give it another name, and another name will be TC_East_USA_network_A_subnet_A. Yep, and this is also fine. Let me click on OK. Guys, here one thing is to remember: whenever I will create a virtual machine, and that virtual machine will have the public IP address, so that public IP address should have a standard SKU, because if I have to add virtual machine in the backend pool of the load balancer, either the virtual machine should have a standard SKU or it should not be using the public IP address. So to do that, let me click on create new, and here I will select the standard SKU. Now I will get a public IP address as a static one. Let me click on OK. Let me click on next, 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 review plus create. Let the validation be passed. So validation is passed. Let me click on create. Now since the deployment is in progress, let me create another virtual machine with the name web server 2. Let me again click on virtual machine. I will click on create, then I will select virtual machine. I will select the resource group as TC_East_USA. Name of my virtual machine will be web server 2. Region is fine. Now I will select availability set, and I will choose the availability set that we have created. Image is fine. Size is also fine. It is the minimal size we have. Now let me enter the user ID and the password for this virtual machine. Copy and paste. See guys, my first virtual machine with the name web server 1 has been created. Now I will open the port number 80 for HTTP traffic to go through with this VM, and then I will click on next. Here I will select standard hard disk drive, click on next for the networking part. In the networking, it's fine, I will be using this network. This subnet is also fine, and I will click on create new. I will be using standard SKU. Click on OK. Next, next, next. Review plus create. Let the validation be passed. Validation is passed. Now we will click on create. Deployment is in progress. We need to wait for a while. See guys, once this deployment will be over, then what we will do, I will connect to the web servers, web server 1 and web server 2 with their public IP addresses, and then I will configure IIS on both of these servers, and then I will configure the IIS with one small index.html page file. After that, I will disable the public IP addresses, and I will configure one load balancer with a public IP address, and I will configure these servers in a backend pool of this load balancer, so that whenever user asks for whenever user try to access the port 80, the website, the web application that is running on these servers, so the first request should go here and another request should go here. So we will be doing this practical. Alright guys, so the deployment is complete. So both of the virtual machines are created. Let me go to the first virtual machine to configure the IIS. This is my first web server. Click on connect, click on RDP, click on download RDP file. Let me open it. Click on connect. Let me log in here. Click on yes. Let me quickly disable the firewall first. Okay. So let me log into the another server, which is web server 2. Click on connect. Now I will enter my credentials. Click on yes. Let me quickly disable the firewall as for this server as well. I have clicked on local server. Here is the Windows firewall. It is on. Let me click over here. Go to advanced settings. Go to Windows firewall properties. Now I will make it off. The domain profile, private profile, and the public profile. Since I am doing this thing for the testing purpose, that is the reason I am disabling this firewall. Alright. Guys, so this is my web server 2. Now what I will do, I will configure IIS on both web server 1 and web server 2. To do that, let me go to my server manager. Go to manage, add roles and features. Click on next, next, next. Now I need to select web IIS. Click on add features. Click on next, 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 next. Check here. Click on install. Now let's go to the web server 2 and we will follow the same process. Let me open the server manager. Go to manage, add roles and features. Click on next, next, next. Now I will select the option web server IIS. Click on add features. Next, 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 next. Click on restart the destination server automatically if required. Press yes. Click on install. Now let's wait for some time and let the IIS web server be installed on both the servers. So once it will be installed, we will be configuring it. So on the web server 1, the installation is success. Let me close it. Let me close the server manager as well. Let me see. Okay, so here the IIS installation is still in progress. So now I will configure this first server, web server 1, with a small HTML page. So to configure it, let me open its C drive. This is inetpub folder. In the www root, I will create one small HTML page. Here guys, I already have the codes for a very small and a very basic HTML page. Let me copy it. And let me paste it over here. I am not using any image. Let me remove this line. So this is my first web page. I will click on File, Save As. Let me save it on desktop. All file. I will give it a name, index.html. Close it. And let me put it over here. Alright. Now let's see if this web page is working or not. To check that, let me open the IIS tools. This IIS manager. We will click over here. Sites, default website, and I will click on browse. Let's see what happens. Alright, so this first web page is opening and it is working absolutely fine. Now let me go to the second web server, which is web server 2. Alright, here also the IIS installation is complete. Let me close it. And here also I am going to create one web page with the name index.html. I don't have any image. Let me delete this line. In File, Save As, index.html. If I open it, it gives me the same, but I want to make it a second web page, so let me modify it. I will make a small change over here. Let me open it in the notepad. Save it. Now let me put this web page index.html in the root folder of inetpub. Now let's check quickly whether this web page is working fine. To check that, we need to go to IIS manager, go to default website, and see, we need to click over here, HTTP. Let's see whether the web page is opening perfectly fine or not. Let me close it and let me try to open once again. Okay, so it is working fine. I have my web page is working absolutely fine. Now what I will do, let me create one load balancer, and after that I will be disabling the public IP address of both the VMs. To create a load balancer, go to Home, click on Load Balancer, click on Create, subscription I will use pay as you go, resource group I will use TC_East_USA. Now I will give load balancer, my load balancer as a name, this TC_East_USA_load_balancer. I am using it as a public load balancer, so I will use the option public. Now this, whenever this load balancer will be created, it will have a public IP address, so that I will be accessing the public IP address of this load balancer, and in the backend it will be connected with the web server 1 and web server 2, and whenever user will request for the web pages, they will not access directly to the IP addresses of the web servers, rather they will access this public IP address, and in return it will retrieve the pages one by one from web server 1 and web server 2 by connecting it with their private IP addresses that are the with this series of 10. Now click on Next, Front-end IP Configuration. Here I need to give the IP for this load balancer. Click on Add. Now let's give some name of this IP address. I will give it a TC_East_USA_load_balancer_front_end_IP. This is a front-end IP. Now click on Create New. I will give it this name. Click on OK. Click on Add. Now let's click on Next Backend Pool. Now I'm going to click on this Add a Backend Pool. Click on Add. Now I will give some name to this backend pool. I will give it a name. This name, TC_East_USA_load_balancer_backend_pool. Virtual network, I will use this. Now I will click on Add. Guys, here we can add these two. I will be adding these two VMs. Click on Add. Now here I will be click on Add once again. Now this backend pool is also configured. Now I will click on Next Inbound Rules. Click on Add a Load Balancing Rule. Let me give it a name. I will give it a name TC underscore east underscore USA underscore load underscore balancer underscore rule. Front end IP address I need to select. This has to be created. It is not created yet. In the port, I will select 80. What does this mean? I will be accessing the private IP address, public IP address of the load balancer on the port number 80. And what it will do, it will redirect the request to the backend port, and that too will be on port number 80. And we know that in our backend we have web server 1 and web server 2. So whatever request we will be accessing, we will be requesting to the load balancer on port number 80. It will be routing the request on the backend servers on port number 80. In backend pool, we need to select as this. Now we need to create one health probe as well. Let's click on it. Let me give a name to the health probe. I will give it a name TC underscore east underscore USA underscore load underscore balancer underscore health probe. Protocol will be HTTP. Port number 80, path is the root directory of the web servers. Interval, in every 5 seconds it will check whether the web servers are alive or not, and the maximum threshold is 2. For the consecutive failures, if this load balancer will be not able to connect with the web server 1 or web server 2, it will assume the web server as a unhealthy. Click on OK. Click on add. Click on next. Next. Click on next, review plus create. Validation is passed. Now we will click on create. So guys, the load balancer is in the process of getting created. We need to wait for some time. Deployment is in the process of getting submitting. Let's wait. Now guys, what I am going to do is I am going to disable the public IP addresses for both the web servers. So what will happen, as of now, the way I am connecting with these web servers through RDP, these will be disconnected because I am connecting to these web servers through this public IP address. This is a web server 2 and I have RDP this public IP address. Now once I will disable the public IP addresses of both of these web servers, I will not be able to connect these web servers through their public IP addresses through RDP. So in case if I have to connect with these web servers, I may have to connect another virtual machine with the public IP address, and by logging into that third virtual machine with its public IP address, I can connect to these virtual machines internally from that third virtual machine. Through it, I can connect these virtual machines with their private IP addresses. That starts from the series of 10. So guys, the deployment is complete. Let me go to resource. Click on see more. So guys, this is the public IP address of this load balancer. Now if I have to access these websites, I will access the load balancer through its public IP address, and in return what this load balancer will do, it will forward the request to this web server 1 and web server 2 in a round robin scheduling manner. So let me first disable the public IP addresses of both the virtual machines. Let me select this web server 1 VM. Let me go to networking. Click on NIC public IP. I will click on disassociate. Click on yes. Now the public IP address is disabled, and we will see here the moment it will be disabled, this connection will be lost. See, we have lost the connection with this web server. Now in a similar way, I will be disabling the public IP address of this web server too as well. Click on networking. Select the public IP address. And I will click on disassociate. Disassociate public IP address, click on yes. Now once it will be done, this connection will also be lost. Alright. Now if I have to access these web pages, how I will access? I will access it through the public IP address of the load balancer. Let me copy it. Let me paste it over here and let's see what happens. So it has directed the web page to the second web server. Let me try opening it once again. Alright, when I try to access this web page through incognito, the load balancer has forwarded my web request to the web server 1. So in this way we have seen that how load balancer is balancing the load on these web servers. The way we used to see this thing in Microsoft Network load balancing here. So guys, this was my small knowledge that I have shared with you. So if you are new to my channel, kindly subscribe it. If you like my video, kindly press the like button and share it. Thanks for watching my video. Thank you.